All right, welcome back, everybody. Well, I haven't done a video for a little while just because I've been so busy with everything else, but it's so hard not to do videos, especially when there's so much going on that's so fascinating. And I want to talk about Dr. Erickson. I'm going to get into that. I think that's going to be the main topic of this video. But, really, there's a couple other things I want to touch on really quick before I get into that. Kind of an introduction while I wait for the YouTube live thing to get going. Sometimes there's a little bit of a lag at the very beginning, so I'll do a little small talk first. So Tedros on Twitter, kind of rhymes, right? It's like old Dr. Susie. So Trump is not a fan of Mr. Tedros, who's the he's the lead person on the World Health Organization, and so Trump has withdrawn their funding. So Tedros, he's almost as active on Twitter as Trump. It's like they're pretty neck and neck. I would say Tedros is, at this point, more active. And it almost seems like a compensation for what's going on, because all of his tweets are, thank you to this leader of this country for all the money you've given us. To kind of, I think, in a way, call out Trump and say, look, all these people are giving us money and you're not. That's what it feels like. And it's interesting because if you look at his tweets, he's this happy-go-lucky guy who's tweeting saying, thanks for all the money over here, thank you for the millions over here. Meanwhile, all the comments below that are just flaming him, saying, resign. And that's got to be difficult for him to stomach, I would think, over time. But seems to be doing okay because he's just firing up the tweets, right? I don't know where he finds time to do his World Health Organization work with all the tweets that he's doing, but, I guess he's a multitasker. What can I say? And then the other interesting thing in the news is China is saying, hey, don't blame us for this whole COVID thing, and it's not fair to put sanctions on us because of the COVID thing, because we didn't tell you about it, and, we weren't transparent, we're still not, blah, 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 right? So the argument is tariffs wouldn't be, or sanctions rather, wouldn't be a good way to treat them with that. So, yeah, thought that was interesting. What would a good retaliation, or not, retaliation is kind of a harsh word, isn't it? Like, how do you deal with a country like that? So the problem, I don't want to get into this too much because I think this is a video all in of itself, but China is so unique, right? Because they're the only kind of last standing country that is not a free market, but yet they operate within the global free market. So in my opinion, they have a little bit of an unfair advantage and almost, strategically positioned to be hyper competitive within that free market, right? It's quite interesting, I think. So anyway, I'm going to do a video on that at one point when I get more of my facts in line. But I think it's just that from a geopolitical standpoint, I think right now China's really fascinating. And I don't know if it's good or bad, but definitely some things to think about. Anyway, all right, let's get into it. I think the video's probably caught up by now. Dr. Erickson. So these are actually two doctors. One's Dr. Erickson, and what about the other guy? I don't know. Are they both brothers? Both, with the same last name? I don't know, but everybody refers to this as the Dr. Erickson COVID-19 briefings. And it's all over the internet right now, and I've been heard about it about a week ago, and everybody was like, oh, wow, you got to see this. I actually had one person who was just totally into it and was saying that this whole COVID-19 thing's a farce and blown out of proportion. So then I thought, well, I got to go watch it, because there's smart people that are talking to me about this, but it's stuff that just makes my head hurt when they say it, because it's like, what? Like, don't you read scientific journals? I mean, I don't either, but I read the summaries, right? The chapter summaries, I read those. But anyway, so these are two guys. They're Bakersfield doctors. Bakersfield seems to be a small town in California, so they're in California. So they talk about the state of California, and that's key, okay? Where they film, it's cleaner than my little background here. They've got their certificates on the wall, and I've got some certificates, but I didn't put them on the wall for you. And then they've got, they're wearing their scrubs. So they look like doctors. They've got a little doctorly thingy here, and they look legit, okay? So when you're watching it, you're like, oh yeah, these guys must know doctor stuff, right? So there's that. So, is that staged? I don't know. I have to kind of lean on, well, it looks staged, like it. I mean, but they are legit doctors. They have a clinic. That's their clinic. Patients come in. So, maybe not. Who am I to say? But anyway, so this briefing, I'm going to touch my face. Okay, I get one free face touching in this video, okay? So their briefing is to argue, it seems like their briefing is to argue that there's no reason for social distancing and that the forecasts were way off and that this whole thing is just like the flu. They actually say that, just like the flu. So what I want to do, there's a whole bunch of videos out there that debunk what they say and criticize what they say, and most scientists and statisticians actually do as well. But what I want to do is kind of go through this, some of their statements, and kind of comment on what I think and what's happening as a result of this, right? And kind of go through that from a layperson's point of view. I am not a doctor. I am not a statistician. I'm not even good at math, okay? Like, not even there. But, I have an opinion, and I'm on YouTube. So here you go. And, well, let me know what you think, okay? Because I have been wrong, so let's see what happens here, okay? So when I was watching the video, I kept thinking to myself, these are smart guys, right? These are smart guys. They look like nice guys. They're very articulate, right? Their office is clean. They seem really professional, okay? So, but what they're saying doesn't seem to be correct, just by listening to it. And sure, maybe I'm wrong, but it doesn't seem to be correct. So why would they say those things? And I was immediately thinking, oh, they want to make a bunch of money because they're going to become super famous. And yep, that happened, right? They're all over social media. They've been on the news, and there's a big camp of people that are looking at them like superheroes. So, there's that worked out for them. So is that motivation to do this? Or do they really firmly believe that they're right and that it's their duty to go and say this? I don't think they believe they're right, because no matter how bad I am at math, my wife will correct me. And the world has corrected them on their bad math. So I don't know if it's fame or fortune that they're after, but, so there's a couple things that I think about, right? Is, the world is a certain way, and I have to kind of go about my business, not how I wish the world was, but how the world actually is. So that's something that I've had to learn throughout life. Like, I wish we all got along. I wish there was no, all the bad things, but there is. And, so we got to take precautions. So, there's another expression where it says, search for evidence that supports your belief, right? I think that's always a good idea. And I'm not sure if they did that. So anyway, let's get into it. So some of their statements, and let's see here. People are avoiding hospitals, meaning hospitals are empty. But I think their exact quote was, people are avoiding hospitals. Yes, 100% agree. There's been a lot of videos where people drive by the hospitals and they're empty, and they're like, yeah, see, there's no pandemic. This is all nonsense. This is all fake news. Well, so they're correct in the fact that there's some hospitals, not all, like New York, some places in Europe, some places in Asia. Well, yeah, those hospitals are still busy with COVID patients. But the reason some of the hospitals, and in my neighborhood, that's true as well, are almost empty, well, there's a bunch of reasons, right? And it's not that hard to figure out. So when I say I don't think these people believe what they're saying, is because it's not that hard to figure this out, right? Like, I'm not that smart, okay? So, I'm not trying to be smart, but, okay, so in planning for this pandemic, as soon as they said the word pandemic, it's like all bets are off. Let's, buckle down and prepare, dig the trenches. Let's get ready. This is coming at us. It's going to be a tsunami. Get ready, right? So when you look at, and not everybody has visibility of this. So, there's that. I get it, right? Maybe you don't know what's going on at a global level when they say pandemic, because it triggers a bunch of stuff. Even before we got there, emergency centers were fired up. There's people working 24/7 monitoring the situation. There's rooms full of people around the world that are monitoring for emergency response, disaster recovery, right? There's a lot of stuff going on now because of that. And as a result, hospitals made certain changes. So one of the changes that they made was they said, okay, let's cancel all non-emergency, non-critical operations. We're just going to put them on hold, okay? So that was one thing they did. Immediately, you see a bunch of people leave the hospital. Those people are not showing up, okay? So I would say that's the first thing that happened, right? So they want to save room in those hospitals so they got capacity when the COVID patients come in. We haven't seen that huge wave yet. So there has been some. I know there's been more and more. Actually, it's picking up more and more here. So, so they've saved room there. And then all the people that would go visit those people that are not there either. So that alone is a huge chunk of people that are not there. But then you take a look at that and you say, okay, well, now you're going to scale back on all those indirect supply chain people. So there's people selling you coffee, the people removing the garbage, the people cleaning the floors, cafeterias, parking attendants. All those people don't need them anymore, or don't need them to the extent that we had them. So you're going to see that thin out, right? All those staff people that were not surgeons or doctors or reception or anything that can scale down, and I'm sure that's happened as well, at least in some places. So you've got that. Then you've got the hospitals that will actually can have contractors, and they can. And I don't know all the facts around this. This is what I've been told. So fact check me, please, on this. Apparently, they can scale down fairly easily when there's not the demand there, and do that. I don't know how it works with nurses and doctors, because I know nurses a lot of them are union in some parts of the world, but apparently they can scale down like that. So when it's not too busy, they can remove some staff. And I don't know how that works, but that's what I've heard. And it kind of makes sense to me, right? I mean, hospitals are kind of small, well, not even small, medium-sized businesses, right? So I would see them being able to do that, especially to scale up, right? So there's that. And then there's also people like me and people that I know that don't want to go anywhere near a hospital, right? It's like a hot zone. Stay out of the hot zone. And I don't want to get sick, so I don't want to go to a hospital. And so there's that. And then there's the other side of it where you remove all the people that want to call the ambulance, right? Oh, my foot hurts. I got to go to the hospital. That's cut down dramatically. And I know that for a fact from talking to people that work in a hospital that are first responders that said that that's dropped dramatically. And so you've got that as well. You've also got all the people that are no longer hurting themselves because they're stuck in their office all day and they're not going out on their bike or their motorbike or whatever it is getting hurt, right? So people don't need to go to the hospital right now because they're in self-isolation or social distancing. So that's why people are avoiding the hospitals, or people are not in the hospitals, because of all those reasons. And there's probably a whole bunch more. But so that was right, but I think for the wrong reasons. Anyway, okay, what else did they say? And go watch this if you want. Give them some more hits on YouTube. I'm sure they'll like the ad revenue. Similar to the flu was another thing they said. And that just blows my mind when people say that. Like, why? Like, there is so much scientific data collected now that says that is not true. Okay, so it's not like the flu. It's like the flu in respect of some of the symptoms initially. So the problem with that is that when you get the flu or when you get COVID-19, a doctor doesn't know the difference quite often until it's well progressed, which is bad, which is dangerous for the people who got COVID-19. So that makes it, that's a concern right there. So it's not like the flu at all. So influenza, 0.1% is what we say with like a death rate for influenza, right? And so let's see here. So he's saying that for the stats that he threw out there, he's saying influenza is 0.1%, and that the crazy stats that he threw out there, which I'm going to go over, is 3 times less deadly, which is way off. Like, I don't know whose math you're using, but like everything I've seen says that is like way like crazy off, totally wrong. And let's like, we don't even have to do any complicated division here, right? We can just look, and I got the chart or the map right here for the Johns Hopkins map up there, and today it's showing me 258,000 global deaths, right? And I've got the little hockey stick curve going straight up. Well, not straight up. It's like a 50-degree angle. If you're skiing, that'd be a little steep. But, right, so we got that going on. And, just if we look at the numbers there, so 53,000 deaths last month due to COVID-19. right? And those are low numbers, and we could argue about that. But my stance on that is those are low numbers based off of China's low numbers, and also based off the fact that people die, and we say, oh, they died of pneumonia, not COVID-19. So, and I think that happens quite a bit. I don't know why we lowball the numbers in these different places, but that's what I think. Those are low numbers. But let's just say it's 53, right? That's in 1 month. So in 1 month, we've beaten the flu season. So, and we're not even done yet. And we took all these precautions to flatten the curve, right? If we hadn't done that, that 53 would have been what? Like way higher. I won't even guess the number, but way higher, right? So even with all that in place, it's way worse than the flu. So what are they talking about, right? Like, just forget their math. Just look at the chart, right? Like, anyway. So 1 month worse than the flu, and we took all these safety precautions. Scientists, not me, but like real scientists that went to school for science, they say that this is about 10 times worse, which seems about right? Like, sure, okay. Not 3 times less. So anyway, the other thing is that, like, whether it's worse or not, so this is on top of everything else. And I think this is the big factor that a lot of people forget to talk about. So you've got the flu, and then you've got heart attacks, and you've got this and this and this and this. And so you've got this big chunk of deaths per year. And let's say it looks like about like that, okay? Let me put it right there. So about like that. So that's a lot. That's what your infrastructure is kind of built to support. And you've got a framework around that. You know how to deal with heart attacks. You know how to deal with flu. You know how to deal with pneumonia. And you've got some protocols in place to deal with that. Now you've got COVID-19, and you put that right on top here. And you see what happened? Now you got a lot more, right? Now you got this instead of that. Well, the problem with that is your infrastructure is not built for that. And plus, these guys up here, you don't have any treatment protocols for those people, right? I'm not even talking a cure. You don't have anything to, like, you don't have any Tylenol to give them, right? So anyway, we're developing that pretty quickly. So hopefully that will come into place. But that's the problem, right? That you've got all this extra. This is the party crasher up here. This is the +1 that comes to your party that eats all your barbecue and makes it so everybody else only gets a few mouthfuls, right? This is the guy who kills your party, right? The party crasher. So, there's that. Like, nobody's talking about that, but that's really a big factor, I think. A bunch of these other things we can argue and say, well, it's 3%. No, it's 10%. Whatever. It's bad. It's extra, right? And that's I think we would all agree on that, at least, hopefully. So the other big thing that I picked up, and most other people did as well on this, is the extrapolation that they did there. And this is where their math skills really seem to have failed. And again, it really seems like it was done on purpose. They say that 6.5% of the population in their math, because they tested a bunch of people that came in and into their clinic, and they took that and said, well, that's going to represent the population of California. No. So when you look at death rates, right? We sometimes call it mortality rates, or we call it the the FCR, the factor, I can't remember. But they're different things, they're different calculations. So one, you look at the total population, and then you look at the number of people that died, right? And I don't really like that formula, because I don't really care about the total population. What I care about is the number of people you tested. So in their clinic, so they use total population, which, it's the people that come into their clinic are people that have symptoms, okay? They're not the people that necessarily have exposure, although some of them could have been. So exposure or symptoms trigger you to go see your doctor, go see these people. So odds are you're infected if you go there. I mean, it's probably much more likely than the general population. Yet they're saying it's the general population when they say that, so many people went into their clinic. They're saying, well, they can just extrapolate that. No, you can't. Sorry, but it doesn't work that way. You'd have to do a blind trial. So you'd have to go out on the sidewalk and go to like every city in California and say, hey, can I test you? Hey, can I test you? And do it that way. then you could extrapolate that a little bit better if your sample size was sufficient enough. But what they're saying is, well, we had like, so many people coming to our clinic and we tested them all, and of those people, this is how many people were infected. No, you can't do that. Like, I'm not good at math or statistics or anything like that, but I know you can't do that. So you're not fooling anybody with that. So it's like saying, a nurse saying, oh, you know what? This month I had 10 people come in and they all tested positive for being pregnant. Therefore, every woman in California is pregnant. No, nobody would believe that, right? It's just like, hello? Anyway, they're doctors, they're smart people. So obviously they knew that that was just garbage, right? So there's the total population against how many people have died. That's one calculation. I think that's mortality. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments below, please. And then there's the people that are tested, and then the people of those that die. And to me, that's a more substantial, more meaningful calculation. So that's what I would probably want to look at. And so they could look at that. They could say, I tested this many people. Let's say I tested 10 and one person died, right? Just tell us that and say that was specific to our clinic. Sure, let's just go with that. That would be meaningful and correct, right? And then they could say, well, and maybe we could say that for our state, or not even our state, our city rather, they could talk to other doctors and collect details. And then they could do maybe some better, more accurate extrapolation. But even then, I would caveat it with saying that, like, look, this is what we did. Instead of just saying, oh, it's the whole population of California. No, it's not, right? Anyway. Let's see, what else? So then they get into saying, well, the original projections are way off, and we haven't had any of the deaths that they promised we would have, and we've done all this social distancing, and we've killed all these businesses for what, right? And I don't, again, it just seems like they're trying to get sensationalism, and they're trying to stir things up, because I'm pretty sure I've been sitting in my office for about 3 weeks here now, maybe 4 weeks now, doing this thing called social distancing so we could flatten the curve. And if we hadn't done that, I would tend to believe, and I'm not a scientist, but I would tend to believe that we'd probably have more people infected just based off of how infectious diseases work, especially this one that we've seen with all the scientific evidence and studies. So, like, hello, flatten the curve? Like, you're not even going to think about that? You're not even going to give people credit for doing that? All these people like me that have been stuck in my house for 4 weeks, right? You're not going to give us credit for helping with that a little bit? Just a little bit? Just throw me a little bone here, just a little bit? What about all those doctors and everybody like that? You're not even going to, your fellow peers. Anyway, so yeah, original projections were like this. We went like that, right? But it's not done yet. We're still kind of going. So yeah, it's not the same as the original projections because we flattened the curve a little bit. Holy cow. It makes me wonder where they got their degree. Sorry, I'm getting a little stirred up here. But like, this, like Dr. Erickson, this. Why didn't you address that? Why didn't you say that? Anyway. So then they say deaths may be due to I'm going to say this wrong. I've been practicing it, but I know I'm still going to butcher it. Comorbidities. Did I say that right? Not COVID. So what that means is that, maybe they died of a heart attack, or maybe they died of pneumonia, or maybe they died of being overweight or having a heart condition or something like that, diabetes, right? Well, I think it's the opposite of that, and most scientists do as well, right? So if you have diabetes, if you have a heart condition, if you have asthma, if you have any of those things, that makes you more susceptible to anything, right? Your life expectancy is now shorter. If you have anything else that impacts your health, that's going to complicate things, and you're more at risk of fatality, of dying, right? So if you COVID-19, you're probably going to not do as well as some other people that are really healthy. So by getting infected with COVID-19, right, could cause your death. And so to say that, well, those people that died because they got COVID-19 would have died anyway because they had poor health. Well, yes, they would have. Everybody died eventually, right? Like we all have terminal illness. It's called death and old age. But it probably would have been a lot later had they not been infected. So again, I would say they're 100% wrong on that one because it's the total opposite. So I don't get it. I don't get that at all. So I'm going to wrap up here in a minute, but there's a bunch of people out there that are all riled up about this and saying, oh, we got to get back to work. Yeah, we do. I totally agree. A bunch of people out there protesting on the streets saying we don't have to wear masks and stuff. And they're probably just not that well educated in that area. That's fine, because we've done a terrible job globally educating people on hygiene and how infections work. And even, you know, I think that the education on how far particles go out of your mouth when you sneeze, most people didn't realize anything about that, and which boggles my mind, right? The whole 25 feet, 3 meters thing, right? It's just, you know, and I also have to say that I can't blame them too much, because the whole government and authorities have been saying don't wear masks as well. So, and now they're finally saying wear masks. So I really put the blame on them rather than these people in the streets that just have not gotten the right information, I think, more than anything. And then you have two doctors like this who just want to get famous, I think, that give everybody this false hope. And I call it false hope rather than fake news, because, you know, I agree with where they're going with it. Like, we all want to get back to work. We all want things to get back to normal. We all want our lives back. We all want to go travel. I want to go, you know, to some fantastic places that I couldn't go to. We all want that, and we all want to move as quickly as possible towards that. There's huge unemployment right now. It's just growing. There's risk of food shortages. There's all these other risks that are coming up due to this darn COVID-19 thing. I get that. I get it that you want to go back to normal, and I do too. So, but that's not going to allow me to tell people lies, right? And I think that for whatever reason, these doctors felt inclined to do that. And, you know, I'm not, you know, there's nothing here that I'm saying that hasn't been scientifically put out in papers, right? So I'm not subjectively saying that these guys are out to lunch. I think that they're great guys. They seem nice enough. Well, I wouldn't say great guys, because they're obviously doing a huge disservice to the world, right, with this. But, you know, if you want to go out there and prove the world wrong, you know, great, go do that. That's fantastic. But like, get your math right. And if you're bad at math, get a tutor, right? That's cheap now, right? You know, or ask your mom to help you, like whatever works, but get your math right. And then have some sort of, you know, backup, right? Do a study, right? Do a scientific study, do a case study, get a random sample. Random sample would have been a good idea in this case, right? Work with all your other doctor friends, get that going, get something that's actually legit. And then do a YouTube video and say, look, this is what we discovered. Whoa, things are way off, or not, right? That would have been good. Take the time to go do that rather than just do a 15-minute video that's actually not scientifically correct. That probably would have gone over a little bit better. But anyway, so that's all I got for you today. We're going to have to get back to normal. Well, it won't be normal. I mean, the world's changed. It's going to be different, of course, right? But we're going to have to move back towards that eventually. And then I can get back to making travel videos for all of you. So that'll be fun. But that's all I've got today. Let me know how many mistakes I made, how wrong I am, because I know some of you are going to say, oh, Rob, you got it totally wrong. Maybe I do, right? Let me know. I'm happy to make another video saying how wrong I was, because I'm not a scientist and I'm bad at math. So there's that. But I hope it's over. I hope I hope they're right. I would love them to be right, and for this to all be over as soon as possible. But so far, science and math and statistics is saying that they're probably not. So anyway, all right, that's it. I'm shutting her down. All right, thanks, everybody. Stay safe. See you later.